Buenos días, bienvenidos. Welcome everyone. Great to have you here. My name is Mónica Altamirano. I'm the founder of a boutique consulting company called ALTAMIRA, where we apply system thinking to drive the uptake of regenerative finance. And I also represent NetworkNature, which is an EU-funded consortium of 11 organizations, including IUCN, ICLE, and others, trying to get all the research done in the European Union on nature-based solutions to be in one place, available, but also to get those organizations to work together for research that is relevant.
My name is Carlos Arriga. Thank you for joining us in this event. I'm the director of the We Are Water Foundation. Let me explain you a bit who we are. The We Are Water Foundation is an organization that was created by a company named Roca. It's a Spanish company, family-owned, more than one-year-old company. It's a platform brand. And in 2010, created this foundation with just one main goal, which is to end the lack of access to water and sanitation in the world, which not only affects millions of people, but also is one of the greatest threats to biodiversity. To achieve this main goal, we work in short and in long terms. In short, we develop projects with international and local organizations. We build infrastructures like reservoirs, wells, latrines, drip irrigation systems, any kind of infrastructure that can bring water and sanitation, and always under the umbrella of training, empowerment, and education. And I've been saying short because in less than 1 to 3 years, communities that don't have this access, we will provide this access. In long term, what we do is to develop, to create different activities, awareness-raising activities. We work with schools, with universities, with business schools, with architects, with artists, with chefs, even with hotels. So we try to cover all the different aspects in the society to bring to our field of bringing water and sanitation. Because what we are seeking is to find new partners that can help us to bring water and sanitation to all of those people, right? So know different points of view, different approaches, different ways of working. And that's why when I first met Monica in Dubai in COP last year, I think it's less than a year, as soon as we start to talk, we realized that we had common and complementary goals, and we start to think how to work together. And in fact, this is the second thing that we organize together. Looking for new partners, as I was saying, and new ways of working. And I would say this is the main purpose of this meeting. Learn from you, learn from your organizations, bring more people on board, and sharing different knowledge and different aspects of biodiversity, of nature, private sector, financing, all of this kind of stuff. And before ending this introduction, I would like to share with you 3 short stories about water, about having water, and about not having water. There are 3 winners of a short film festival that we started to organize in 2011, I think. Next year we will bring the 6th edition, and you will see 3 stories. For one of them, I would say talks about resilience. You will tell me if you agree or not. I would say another one speaks about participation. Well, in fact, about not participation, lack of participation. And the last one talks about hope. And I think it's the best thing that we can have, and we cannot afford not to have it. So I will leave you with these 3 short films, and then we will start. Thank you very much.
Para los, bueno, miren, algo que queríamos decirle, ¿cuántas personas aquí no hablan inglés? Ok, desafortunadamente no pudimos conseguir traducción, era imposible conseguir traductores en Cali ya desde hace como un mes. En algunos momentos las slides van a estar en español y se va a hablar en inglés. Yo las mías las tengo en inglés, las trataré de poner en español y la mayoría de los speakers también hablan español, así que las preguntas pueden hacerse en español. Me disculpan porque estamos en Colombia, pero también tenemos al resto del mundo aquí, ¿no? Gracias. O sea, de observar la naturaleza y cómo funciona un bosque, cómo funciona el ecosistema. Y estos son los 8, ¿no? Todo está en una relación correcta. Estamos viendo que no es solamente Producto Interno Bruto, sino bienestar, lo cual tenemos que optimizar varias variables al mismo tiempo, no una. Uno, no lo voy a leer todo, pero la participación empoderada, lo que quiere decir no solo que le preguntamos a las comunidades qué quieren, sino que las dejamos con su cosmovisión, con sus recursos, ser parte de la solución. Es muy diferente, ¿no? Y uno de los más o sea, le hace honor a la comunidad y el lugar. Nuestro sistema global de mercado se ha olvidado de eso, y ahora si me como 10 manzanas o una no importa porque no lo veo, no pasa cerca de mi casa. Antes era así y entonces estaba más conectado. Y yo creo que uno muy importante es que busca un balance. Hemos ido hacia un mundo de polarización. ¿Sí? Lo hace el sector público, lo hace el sector privado, competencia o cooperación. Y en realidad siempre es un balance. Y tenemos que ser capaces de tolerar cosas que parecieran contradictorias hasta que encontremos ese balance. Hay mecanismos de financiación, ahí no están los créditos de biodiversidad porque era una publicación de 2021, pero hay muchos mecanismos y hay mucho deseo de invertir en inversiones de impacto, porque la banca también tiene nuevas regulaciones que está pidiendo simplemente esos tipos de impacto. Hay una nueva generación, pero eso lo van a escuchar más tarde, que quiere ese tipo de inversiones, pero todo se basa en contratos basados en desempeño. Si ustedes no consiguen a alguien en su ecosistema que se haga cargo de los resultados, que otro los valide, no vamos a poder ocupar a esos mecanismos, ¿verdad? Y el futuro están proyectos mosaicos que combinan ingresos de diferentes tipos, pero tiene su ciencia estructurarlo, y en eso también vamos a profundizar. Obviamente vengo desde el mundo de adaptación, pero soluciones basadas, naturaleza, seguridad hídrica, todo está muy conectado, y en realidad la financiación climática puede ser una forma de liberar no solo el capital del sector privado, porque yo de verdad que creo que no es el capital el mayor aporte que el sector privado puede dar, es su creatividad, su capacidad de pensar en cómo crear ingresos, ¿no? Cómo valorar ciertas cosas, y ahí es donde deberíamos de ser capaces de integrarlos, ¿no? Pero hay unas barreras sistémicas para involucrarlo. Uno son los costos de transacción. Ahora mismo hay muchas empresas que saben que su licencia social de operar depende de la cuenca, y eso van a oírlo más tarde también en algunos panelistas. Pero ¿cómo empieza? Si no hay un comité de cuenca, si no hay una gobernanza estándar para empezar a invertir, pues ya casi que les tocaría hacer como un gobierno, activar a todos los actores. Los costos de transacción son muy grandes, ¿no? Entonces hay capital flotando a 10.000 pies de altura, pero aquí abajo no están los proyectos, no está la forma de que ese capital entre, y ahí es donde tenemos que ver cómo lo hacemos. Los otros son los riesgos de transición, porque después si nos vamos de una agricultura normal a la regenerativa, ¿y qué tal si no me sirve? ¿Qué tal si ocupo soluciones basadas en naturaleza para por ejemplo, las inundaciones y se me inunda? O sea, hay todos esos riesgos que también alguien los tiene que cargar y que la financiación climática podría hacer. Y por último, ya se le paso la palabra a Alejandro, hay como 3 bloques en los que podríamos trabajar. Uno es la colaboración público-privada y el uso de financiación mezclada o blended finance, pero de forma programática, no por proyecto. Por proyecto no vamos a llegar a ningún lado. Es decir, no esperen de buscar al sector privado cuando ya tienen todo el plan estratégico de biodiversidad o seguridad hídrica. Involúcrenlos en desarrollar ese programa de inversiones de formas transparentes. No digo que se dé a otro tipo de cosas. Debemos desarrollar nuevas estructuras de gobernanza y estar abiertos a experimentar y a cambiar. Y ahí les va a hablar mucho de eso, por ejemplo, el Fondo de Agua de Bogotá, que hay una serie de esos mecanismos. Y necesitamos alianzas globales y locales. Y eso es lo que queremos hoy de alguna manera hablar, porque me le van a hablar varios actores globales, pero cómo ellos se conectan con actores locales. Porque los actores locales necesitan de la visibilidad que un actor global le puede dar, y al revés, el global necesita del local, porque todas son soluciones basadas en un contexto. Muchas gracias, con eso le paso la palabra a Alejandro. Un momento, necesito cambiar.
Bueno, yo empiezo y le doy las gracias a Mónica. Tal vez algo como una reflexión con la que me gustaría empezar era el último evento que estuvimos con mi equipo fue Climate Week en Nueva York y chocó mucho realmente ver en los grandes stages a las comunidades indígenas, líderes de comunidades pidiendo recursos porque pues tienen el mejor track record protegiendo el medio ambiente, ¿no? Entonces eso genera una empatía con el público, con los participantes, se paran, aplauden y en realidad cuando en ese mismo panel a veces están líderes o CEOs. Sí, está bien. Okay, so I'll go back. So at Climate Week, basically community leaders from indigenous communities came out and really said, one of the most important things is that we need resources. No, we really need resources to continue to preserve the environment as we've been doing it for millennia. And of course, that generates a lot of empathy from the public. No, and people stand up and applaud. And in reality, when you're in that panel, for example, when you have the CEOs from big global green funds, and of course, I'm not criticizing the CEOs or directors. This is a systematic issue that we've been having. The solution is not really in their hands because there's a big gap from those decision makers, right? In that allocation of capital going directly to these community leaders. So we have a big opportunity in creating this new asset class, this new emerging asset class, which is nature investment or nature as an asset class versus a climate asset class, which is really not that empathic to us all. I mean, we don't really necessarily connect to climate, but we do know nature. I mean, we walked in the forest. We know that the jaguar is the top predator, and that if a jaguar is patrolling like 100 to 200 kilometers, it means that ecosystem is in balance, no? So that asset class, it really, we have really that opportunity that for the next generations we're able to make a difference here, to bring value to nature as we've been describing, to understand that intrinsic value of nature, to understand the metrics, but they won't be perfect metrics, we were saying with Delma, but we just need to start working in this. And so the big gap from community leaders and that funding going to those communities and those projects, that's what motivated us as a team with Sasha, my partner here, to 7 years ago, really to start co-creating with WF and other implementing partners like Awake Travel, Laura's here, and it's really a fascinating exercise because it's not usually something that the private sector does, because it's something that the governments or development banks or foundations take the lead on. So it takes courage and it takes time. So I think everything that I'm saying, it comes with a constructive criticism as well, no? Towards really, and I love to be in the green zone actually, because decisions are being taken in the blue zone. But I think we need to connect to people like us in the street and understand what's going to happen for the next generation. I have a 6-7-year-old, and I really want him to understand why the ancestral knowledge of indigenous communities is essential. No, so that's one of the things we fight for. So this big gap that I mentioned, basically it's one of the holistic solutions that we think. No, so. As Monica was saying, pay for results, pay for results instead of paying for activities, is one of the big kind of things that can happen here, because it will allow for basically to assign different contracts and different themes as well, and to be executed properly. No, so one of the things that we started to understand to really tackle the Amazon as an issue is that it's not one issue or one solution that's going to be the silver bullet. No, we really need to look at this from a systemic approach, and we thought that in our case we wanted to an outcomes fund like Aguada RBF, the one we've been creating for 6 to 7 years. It's an outcomes fund that we've been working with WWF, and basically we want to tackle from a Jaguar point of view as a challenge as well, but also from a restoration point of view, or from educational knowledge, ancestral knowledge point of view. And why not making understand also to people and to organizations, like even the flying rivers of the Amazon being a big challenge, represents a big opportunity to tackle food security, for example. 1 out of 2 jobs is created or supported by the flying rivers of the Amazon in the region. 30-40% of the global sustainable agriculture is also supported by the flying rivers of the Amazon. So really, what we want to do here is to be able to really enhance the importance of the Amazon here, start with the landscape approach, which is Colombia, and really tackle from different challenges, right? The ones I mentioned, the 5 challenges that I mentioned, to really work with strategic partners like Awake Travel on the tourism front, with Amazonia Emprende in the restoration front, with Gaia Amazonas on the flying rivers of the Amazon front, and really make a difference, but from a very structured approach, not paying for activities, but rather pay for results. So that's what RBF is meant to do. Thank you for the time. Yes, I mean, one of the, probably these, what we can show here, it's probably at the end. This time. Thank you.
Thank you everyone. Now with that, we will start the first panel, which is focused on result-based financing. No surprise after this, but anyway. So with that, I would like to ask Juliana Granados to come to the front. Thelma, I will present you all of, but please come. And Felipe Villela. Oh, you're good. You're in timing. So Juliana Granados is Executive Director Investing with Impact from Morgan Stanley. Thelma Brenes Munoz is the Manager of Sustainable Finance from the Dutch Development Bank, FMO. And Felipe Villela is Business Development Manager at the Land Banking Group for Latin America. Right? Or, yeah, okay. And I mean, I think I'm very proud. You, in the website that we sent you have the full bios. I won't be able to describe what all of these 3 have achieved. And unfortunately, Pulinda Singh from the Climate Champions had to excuse herself. She had to be with the Climate Champion in one event last minute. But it's great to have you. And I would like to ask you, your personal take on this result-based financing. Starting with Juliana.
Thank you everyone so much for being here. This is a really exciting time for me. It's the vuelta en la casa aquí en Colombia, but I work for Morgan Stanley in the wealth management investing with impact team. And what we do every day in our role is really help investors, whatever those investors are, corporate, family office, ultra high net worth, retail, help people figure out what it is that they're most passionate about and helping them find ways to invest in a way that aligns with their values. And that is a really, really fun place to be in. And when I think about my space and what I do, I'd like to, these few minutes that we have, talk about 2 things. One is scale and one is opportunity. And when I think about nature in particular, we know that 80% of fulfilling the goals of the SDGs, 80% of them depend in some way, shape, or form of nature. And the expected costs of biodiversity loss and being able to go to a regenerative economy are anywhere between $5 to $10 trillion. And to me, that signals both an opportunity for investors who are passionate about this, and two, the need for scale. And this is where the work that we do really comes in, because we know that the demand for this is there, and I'll start by touching on that very quickly, but globally, 77% of investors are interested in sustainable investing. We know that people care about this, and we know that people are thinking in an intentional way about what to do with their resources. When we think about the reasons why that is, last year, Morgan Stanley Institute for Sustainable Investing did a survey, and number one reason that they quote is new climate findings. All the other four are related to inflation, market performance, market dynamics, and that's really interesting because people are seeing not just the need, but also understanding that it's a good business investment. When they think about the challenges, a lot about the challenges is potential for greenwashing, right? And this idea that I may take the decision to invest in something and it might not lead to the best results. Two, the need for impact reporting, right? And the ability to be able to say, did I do a good job here? And three, the fear that it might not necessarily lead to good financial performance. The third one, we have a lot of studies that prove that that's no longer the case. But I think with this ecosystem, what I see the need for and what we do in our work is democratize the opportunities. A lot of the folks here are really working on the ground with projects, with funds, more on the private markets. And what we need to do is to have a sort of a sandwich effect, right? Where we take the younger generations, where we give them access to technology, where we're democratizing the products that they're able to invest in so that they can essentially start from the private markets, start from the public markets, and move towards the private markets in a way that makes sense for them. So it's thinking about where we're investing our 401k or our pension savings, and it's giving people opportunities so that we can embed that across the board.
Thank you very much, Juliana. That's hopeful. I mean, I really take with me the idea to democratize the opportunity, right? And let's hope we can advance today on that. With that, I would like to ask Delma, as Manager of Sustainable Finance at FMO, a bank that works in a way a little bit Morgan Stanley, maybe more global, and you're in touch with those producers and clients that may want to go to regenerative agriculture or other biodiversity positive activities. How do you experience those trends that Juliana is talking about, and what are the choices you do as a bank to serve all those purposes?
Also as an intro to FMO, we are a development bank, and we invest in private sector in emerging markets. And we have a mandate to do two things: have financial returns and create development impact in the countries we operate. And the way of how we have made decisions is that we have said, so as private sector, what we want is that all our projects contribute to economic growth and job creation, but at the same time, we also want that they are climate friendly and they are inclusive. We see some of the things that we have spoken here is about managing the negative impact that some of the projects and the economic activities that we have may have on the environment. So we work with each of our clients and our projects to manage those negative effects. And that's across the portfolio. And it's a basic for us. Like, we have done that for many years. Now what we are doing is being more explicit in terms of the positive and what is it that we want to do with the positive. Within the positive, biodiversity is a topic that we have made more explicit in our strategy 2030, and we have been investing in projects that you want to do more reforestation, conservation, sustainable land use, and agroforestry. What we have seen is that a lot of these projects are typically smaller in the ticket size. Some of the business models are not proven yet. So there is a need to innovate. And there is a need also to let's not be afraid of failure, because innovation means failure, right? It means that you will try, some things will not work. So what we are doing as a development bank is we are trying to be the bridge between the public financiers, like the European Commission, the Green Climate Fund, the governments in Europe, and the projects that we have in developing countries. So we have set up like thematic funds, like you were speaking about. We have a climate fund on climate adaptation. We have now one on mobilizing finance for forest. And what we want to do there is just invest in those kind of projects and give us support, not only financial to these companies, but also the stamp of approval, the development finance institutions like FMO, and sometimes we bring the French and the Germans with us in the investments, that we want to finance this type of projects and that it makes sense that they can be, they can be a good business. So that's one part. I think the second layer that I want to speak about, and we are doing this more often now with the FCD, is working with local partners. We don't have offices. We have, I think, 3-4 offices across the globe with our headquarters in The Hague. So we cannot know about all the challenges and the context in every single country where we invest in. And it's super important to start working more with local partners. And we're still exploring how to do it, right? I mean, it's not that we have figured it out, but we still like working with WWF in Colombia, working with SNB in many of the countries, and try to find partners who can provide technical assistance, but also that know the local context.
Thank you very much, Delma. I think I like because you gave us a flavor also what is to democratize the opportunity, how you're assisting with technical assistance, and also in a way to that stamp that you give, let them access other sources of finance. With that, I would like to ask Felipe Villela, because you're working on an exciting new way to channel some of those funds. Yeah, how do you see result-based financing evolving, and what's your role on it?
Well, thank you, Monica, for the invitation to join here, and it's a pleasure. Before I start, I would like to ask you, all of you, who had coffee this morning? Please raise your hand. Okay, about 70% maybe of this room. Did you know that just in Brazil, the biggest coffee exporter globally, we had 25% yield decrease the past 2 years because of intensive extreme weather events? I come from a citrus family farm in Brazil, so I work a lot in the land. And I know that farmers now are really seeing the impacts of nature and climate risks. And just for example, with soy, we're seeing 20% yield increase because of deforestation in the Amazon, in the Cerrado biome. So basically what we're doing in the land banking group is to understand what is the state and the health of those ecosystems, so that we can measure the outcomes for nature, for those who steward nature, farmers, communities, that protect our most critical infrastructure in our economies, which is our natural capital, so that we can do evaluation and pricing over those natural capital, so that we can find those who want to invest in natural capital, who depend on natural capital to survive. So just like most of the agri-food companies that relies on a certain crop or a certain commodity coming from a certain region, if they don't continue to have, for example, Nespresso with having coffee in their value chains, there's no such a business as for Nestle in this case. So dependencies such as the TFND, recommendations that there is. So companies that depend on natural capital in order to flourish and have an economic viable business model, they have the opportunity, moving from a risk to opportunity to invest in nature in a way that is much more credible and scientifically based compared to the carbon and biodiversity market. So what I'm talking here is basically moving nature investment, supply chain resilience from a cost to an asset on the balance sheet. So how can we look at nature as wealth? Because investing in nature is building economic resilience. So today we're moving from CSR reporting to financial accounting, CSR reporting to a financial reporting. in a way that we can make sure that investments in nature is accounted as a way to de-risk your business and make sure that is create corporate value for your investments. So those who steward nature can be rewarded, and they use this capital to improve the land use resilience by using cover crops, no tillage practices, biodiversity corridors, agroforestry systems that improve the state and the health of the natural capital. And we all talk about carbon so much in this world, where water is actually, well, that's why I really love the video here. Water holding capacity in soil, it impacts so much more yields than carbon, for example. So water as a natural capital is also a huge source of value that those who invest in it is not generating any value. So the Land Banking Group, we created a natural capital investment platform called Lender, where we connect those who steward nature, farmers, communities, with those who want to invest in nature. So we created a legal contract called NAPA, Nature Assets Purchase Agreement, to facilitate these transactions, so we can build an economy that is indexed on nature. So that's a bit of a brief, and that's why it's so exciting to be here in this panel to really talk about how can we, make sure that the financial institutions is looking at nature as wealth, because it's so difficult for me to think that all these investments going to supply chain resilience is not generating any value in the long term for returns.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Felipe. And I had some questions for you, but actually, given the whole language issue too, I would like to give, me gustaría dar la oportunidad a las personas que, digamos, están teniendo un poco de problemas, yéndolos ellos al inglés, porque you can do some Spanish, right? Or, okay. Felipe is from Brazil, but los que tengan alguna pregunta puntual para alguno de ellos en español, ¿pueden levantar su mano? Okay. Puedes venir aquí mejor. Y tú también. Sí. Ok, bueno, tú primero.
Bueno, my question is in Spanish, sorry. Okay. Bien, mi nombre es Giuseppe Suárez, soy director, el CEO de una empresa que se llama CR Group, y pues tenemos un predio de 33,000 metros cuadrados que hemos querido pues de hacer un desarrollo de proyecto ecoturístico con protección de un área de boscosa y un lago de 9,000 metros cuadrados. Nosotros nos hemos encontrado con dos dificultades. La primera es que cuando nosotros vamos a acceder a un préstamo o a un crédito de financiamiento para desarrollar un proyecto ecoturístico, las tasas de interés muchas veces son demasiado altas y pues buscan como crédito de soporte a veces la titularidad de la propiedad, y pues tampoco es justo. Y lo segundo, cuando tratamos de hacer proyectos en torno al cuidado del medio ambiente, nos encontramos a veces con las dificultades políticas, de la voluntad política de los gobiernos dentro del territorio. El territorio que nosotros tenemos en cuestión es Antioquia, Cundinamarca. Mi pregunta es, dadas las condiciones que nosotros tenemos, ¿qué otras oportunidades podemos aplicar? Porque a veces las entidades bancarias en Colombia, las tasas de interés son altísimas, y pues tenemos un terreno que queremos desarrollar, pero a veces inclusive hasta la misma voluntad política, donde no les interesa trabajar con esos proyectos de medio ambiente, sino proyectos de explotación agrícola muy incipiente. Entonces, ¿cómo podemos también aplicar ese tipo de proyectos como más a profundidad? Muchas gracias.
Gracias. Vamos a tomar la otra pregunta y después la respondemos.
Ok, muchas gracias. En lo que alcancé a entender, ¿sí? Mi nombre es Jorge Monge, soy el director ejecutivo de la Fundación El Escarabajo Verde, y tenemos una iniciativa que se llama Agro Neto Cero, basada en la agricultura regenerativa, cultura regenerativa y negocios regenerativos. Sabemos que el 24% de los gases de efecto invernadero vienen de la comida, la agricultura y el uso del suelo. Eso nos lo contó Paul Hawken hace algunos años, y el drawdown, que soy fan de esto y los invito a que lo miren. Lo que yo les quiero preguntar es, ¿cómo ven el tema del agro? ¿Cómo ven el tema del campesino? trabajamos con familias campesinas, alcancé a entender que el ticket para agroforestería y este tipo de cosas es bajito. Pero cuando se logra hacer clúster con 105 familias, para arriba la cosa se pone más interesante y sabemos que las rentabilidades son 5-1. Entonces, ¿cuál es la perspectiva que ustedes ven en términos del agro en zona andina? Los recursos para Amazonía son importantes, pero creo que llevan muchos para allá y necesitamos reforzar zona andina y todo ese corredor completo. Entonces, la pregunta va por ahí, ¿qué ven ustedes? Alcancé a entender algo, algunas cositas, pero me encantaría si en español, por favor, nos pueden aportar algo de eso. Muchas gracias.
Muchísimas gracias. Thank you very much. We will respond those two and then we will go to the other panel. Van a estar la grabación de esto y la traducción en español va a estar en el sitio web donde se registraron, así que esperamos ahí también aportar. Who would like to respond? ¿Quién quiere responder la primera?
So when I was en español, perdón. A ver, nosotros trabajamos con corporaciones, proyectos grandes de energía renovable y bancos y fondos de inversión. En general, estoy pensando, ¿no? Lo que hablábamos también con Juliana es cómo agregar estos pequeños proyectos de una manera que los fondos de financiamiento puedan llegar, por ejemplo, a tu proyecto, al proyecto que hablaba el otro señor. Para nosotros, dos maneras como estamos trabajando ahorita es por medio de las líneas verdes con los bancos. Y es muy similar a lo que nos pasó hace 20 o 30 años con las microfinancieras, ¿no? Muy similar, ¿no? Le quieren dar un crédito a un microproductor, pero no tiene el título de la propiedad. Y los bancos lo ven muy riesgoso, entonces nosotros vamos con el banco e intentamos de estructurar, ok, te vamos a dar un crédito con una tasa un poco más favorable, con un grace period y con el periodo de gracia y la duración del crédito. Entonces, esa es la manera en que nosotros vemos cómo trabajar ahora. Estamos trabajando y identificando con qué bancos en Latinoamérica podemos trabajar para crear esas líneas. Esa es una manera en la que yo veo. Pero también en la otra es la parte de innovación y es sentarnos con actores locales, un banco o con organizaciones locales a pensar cómo podemos agregar. Y para mí eso es la parte importante de partnerships, con asociaciones, para crear esas ideas de cómo agregar y cómo hacer ese financiamiento. Por ahí lo dejo.
Sí. Voy a responder a la pregunta de agro porque trabajo toda mi vida en agro, entonces es más fácil para conectar. Entonces, todo agricultor, mi portuñol no es terrible, pero vamos a intentar. Entonces, todo agricultor es el productor no solamente de las culturas agrícolas, pero también de capital natural, servidores de servicios ecosistémicos. Entonces, secuestrar carbono, aumentar la biodiversidad, la salud del suelo y capacidad de retención de agua. Entonces, todos esos servicios ecosistémicos están generando un valor, están de-risking, disminuyendo el riesgo de todos los actores que están dependiendo de esas culturas agrícolas que están envolvidas con la agricultura. Entonces, desde ganadería, con carne, hasta las producciones de vino, como menos, pero producción de café, todos estos productores están, todos los actores que dependen de esas culturas dependen de ese capital natural. Entonces, hay una oportunidad acá de hacer las transacciones de esos servicios ambientales con una forma de disminución de riesgo, haciendo ese investimento, hacer que gera valor corporativo para las empresas que están pagando el productor por esos activos ambientales, de una forma que sea escalable, porque no es escalable hacer premios sobre el producto por la carne o crédito de carbono, crédito de biodiversidade, que isso é realmente um custo que vai aumentar cada ano a mais. Então, CFOs, a área de contabilidade das empresas não vão conseguir conciliar com todos esses custos que vão ser acrescentados por conta de eventos extremos climáticos para frente. Então, fazer um investimento como um ativo em balanço financeiro vai como um ativo intangível. Então, as empresas não vão ser proprietárias de água, carbono, não. É um ativo intangível. Então, isso vai gerar muito mais valor. E o produtor vai poder usar os recursos para continuar produzindo de forma equitativa e tudo. Então, o agro é o maior produtor de capital natural. E para isso temos que valorar o capital natural e remunerar os produtores por esses ativos. Então, estamos nesse processo agora, sendo, por exemplo, em Brasil, com 4.000 hectares com cacau em sistema agrofloresteria, mas agora estamos olhando como fazemos a transição de soja e carne em cerrado na Amazônia para sistemas que preservam a biodiversidade do bosque.
Muchas gracias. ¿Te importa, Juliana, que pases? Mire, tenemos que pasar al otro panel, pero ellos van a estar unos minutos también aquí después. Por favor, se los preguntan. A ver, les tomo, pero súper rápido porque tenemos que pasar al otro panel. Ok, venga.
Hola, en corto, en short.
Solo la pregunta.
A la banca se puede acceder a los equities si uno tiene la integración de capital para un proyecto y el 96-97% está por algún fondo para conseguir los equities en el cierre financiero, ¿sí o no?
Y la otra pregunta y respuestas, Rolando.
Gracias, muy amable. Luis Carlos Cruz es mi nombre, vengo de Puerto López Meta, Centro Gráfico de Colombia a propósito, ¿no? Con una iniciativa propia, particular y de familia. Mi pregunta no es precisamente financiera, sino al contrario, es una grata noticia para el mundo y por supuesto para Colombia, para nosotros hacer historia como país. Desde Colombia para el mundo queremos, como familia Cruz y agricultores que somos de vocación, de nacimiento, sembrar 1 primer millón de árboles en una tierra que nosotros mismos compramos con este fin. Le dimos nacimiento a Fundación Viceversa porque consideramos que es la hora de hacer viceversa con el planeta. Y desde $1, como mi camiseta lo indica, podemos empezar. $1 significa 1 metro cuadrado como activo propio para nuestra fundación. Ahí está el valor integral, donde se estima el costo del suelo, la adecuación, el mejoramiento del mismo y por supuesto el establecimiento y la administración. Entonces el financiamiento que busco es que me escuchen, gracias por hacerlo y ojalá replicar, que nos hagamos visibles porque nacimos precisamente el día de ayer. Ayer llegamos de Puerto López y queremos hacer historia con el primer millón de árboles y seguramente llegar a la meta principal que es 1 millón de hectáreas en los próximos 20 años, ya que gozamos de esa área en los llanos orientales, en Puerto López. Muchas gracias.
Muchas felicidades. Solo decirles a todos que ellos van a estar unos minutos después, se sientan en la libertad de hacerles preguntas, porque creo que muchos tendrán inquietudes. So anyone who has questions after, some of them, some will run away, but most will stay. So and we have the room, so minutes more. So just please make them questions. Thank you so much, Felipe, Thelma, and Juliana. Now I welcome the other panel. Give them a big applause. Sí, la próxima. No, pero tiene la próxima. Sí. Oh, okay. Okay. We have a small mistake, but no worries. So, con eso yo quisiera bienvenir primero a las mujeres. I would like to welcome first Andrea Yanes. The picture, I'm sorry, there is a little mistake, but Andrea, where are you? Oh, okay. ¿Se tuvo que ir para el aeropuerto? Oh, okay. Now, we had all this logistics problem, but okay. Laura Canevari, please. Laura Canevari is the CEO of Itaca Solutions, which is training and technical assistance in coastal areas And actually, probablemente la vieron en el, probably you saw her in El Tiempo last weekend because she was selected as 40 under 40, empowering communities to be part of the decision making. With that, I would like to welcome Facundo Echevejera, Vice President Sustainability and Partnership from Danone, originario de Argentina. Laura es colombiana. Then we would like to welcome Gideon Blau, Regional Lead of Clean Tech Hub, which, and of course, Erne Duran, co-CEO of One Drop Foundation. They will tell you more, a little bit short in their answer also, because the question I will make to them is about partnerships. They are driving different type of partnerships, public, private, communities with different angles. So they will tell you actually through that also a little bit what their companies do and how they engage. The first question I have is for Facundo. Yeah, tell us, what exciting partnership are you working on to drive this transition?
Okay. So first of all, thanks for the invitation. And well, you can see that the title of my job is exactly strategy and partnership, because we believe that there is no way to do a transformation. We need to foster in a big business like Danone, that is a food company present in several countries, without partnerships. And this is something that we really embrace in different ways. And we are here as well to learn from other partnerships, from other alliances. And this is the model we believe we need to unleash. But the point is that it's not enough to have business alone. And what we are trying to foster now is more and more the PPPP, no? The private, public, and philanthropist partnerships that are the combination that we believe is going to unlock the transformation at the scale. I want to share with you some examples very fast, but I will be happy to share more details later. So, we are struggling with several things, but many of the challenges we have in terms of transformations are linked to the farmers. And we are in a food company, multi-local, as I said, so we need to acknowledge the reality of the farmers. We need to embark them, and we need to do it in a way that is meaningful for them, but also feasible in terms of transition. Yesterday, we presented in the COP an initiative called Future Fit Daily. Future Fit Daily is 5 companies. It's about Arla, Friedland Campina, Rabobank, DSM from and Danone. The 5 companies, we look at the scenario we were facing in terms of transition for the dairy sector, and we said, okay, we need to work in a different way. We have KPIs that are here, many discussions about how to measure the transition toward regenerative agriculture. We have the farmers with the financial constraints. We have the different realities of sizes of the farmers. So we started acknowledging the need to embrace a standard that is easy to explain to farmers in terms of outcomes of the work we are expecting from them to do. That is the Sustainable Agriculture Initiative platform. So we took that, not reinventing the wheel, first element of the partnership approach. Independent criteria to measure outcome. Then we said, okay, let's understand the reality of the farmers and how it's going to play. Because we are suffering always in all these transitions, the average. We think that there is one type of farmer with one need of financing, and that is not working. So what we are doing is a scale, using all the farmers that are in the cooperatives, Arla, Friedland, and cooperatives, to test the model. And we are in this model now testing the cost and benefit, to understand what are the real costs of transition, and then adapt the financing solutions for these farmers, concrete persons. And then we are dissociating in some way or the other the price of milk from the cost of transition that is temporary. So this is one example of articulation of pre-competitive effort, because in the market with the brands, we compete among the 3 companies. But for this, we are showing efforts. Because what we want to do is to set a new standard. We don't want to buy milk. We want to buy milk coming from regenerative agriculture. We don't want to buy milk. We want to buy low carbon milk. So what we are doing as companies is trying to reset the conversation from a market perspective. And now, what we have done yesterday is open the conversation to invite all the companies in the sector that want to join. Because this is only going to be successful when we reset the market and introduce this in the business as usual.
Thank you very much, Facundo. I think it's really hope-giving that you're getting all those companies with so many providers around the world to set this new standard. We'll come back later to see what you miss to get it even to a higher scale. With that, I would like to ask Ernenek, because you're working in other type of partnerships, also at the end with benefits for regeneration, but maybe with a slightly different angle. Can you tell us about your initiative as One Drop Foundation?
Thank you, Monica, and thank you for having us here. My name is Ernenek, as you mentioned, Monica. I'm going to tell you about an example, and it's very close to what Facundo was shared with us before. And I want to introduce some concepts around partnerships and how we are building them from the perspective of the foundation. One of it, for us, the PPPs, but I would add a C, right, which is the communities. And for us, we do access to water and sanitation programs in rural areas mostly. And for many years, now 6 or 7 or 8 years, we've been building a partnership with corporations, with development banks, but also in the center are communities. And so for us, communities are a key part of the partnership, and they need to be considered as a member and need to be at the decision table. Second, I would like to introduce the concept of bold partnerships. We need to be creative. We need to get out of the usual, as you are doing in Danone. We need to make alliances with those that are not the usual suspects, because we are not in a siloed world. We live in an ecosystem, and we share it all. Collective action, and here this is key. We need to set a common vision for the partnership, and this is what we have been doing with our partners in this partnership called Lazos de Agua. Of course, this doesn't happen from one day to the other. It takes a lot of time to build a common vision, but it's worth it, right? And we need to understand that when you are building these kind of partnerships, Monica, you need to leave some chips on the table. You cannot get away with everything you want, and we are building this partnership from a perspective of collective action as well. So all these principles of collective action on how we're putting communities at the center, being creative, knowing that maybe a particular agenda from a particular corporation won't be the one that is driving the partnership, but it's a collective vision working for the communities and having them in mind. I think this is what has been differentiating Lazos de Agua for the past 6 or 7 years. And yesterday we had an event to promote the second phase of this partnership, which is aiming at reaching at least 1 million people with safe access to water and sanitation up into 2030 in the region. And to that partnership, of course, we added a new layer to the partnership, which is Fundación Avina, which has been working in the region for many years and which have like a regional presence. And they are key for this partnership to work, right? Because they are the ones that will be like consolidating, and they are the ones that are going to be working directly with partners on the field and with communities on the field.
It's great, and you're on time. And just one question, what are the other partners of Lazos de Agua?
The partners of Lazos? So one is the Inter-American Development Bank. There is the Development Bank. We have a Coca-Cola company, which is a massive global company. The foundation of Coca-Cola, and we have another Mexican corporation, which is FEMSA. It's the biggest bottler of Coca-Cola outside the United States. And us, as a foundation, we are a private foundation, Canadian-based, founded by the same founder, Cirque du Soleil. And Avina now, who is...
And I think what's interesting from the time I met Ernenek 10 years ago is that because they have the background from Cirque du Soleil, there is also the whole behavioral parts and using arts to do that, which is very powerful, I think. So with that, I would like to ask the question to Laura Canevari. What type of partnerships are you working on that also are pushing the status quo?
Thank you, Monica. So just to give a little bit of background, about 5 years ago, I took a leap of faith. I left what was a very comfortable desk in Oxford at one of the leading climate change risk management firms globally. I moved to Panama without ever having been there with the purpose of founding Ithaca, which is a private technical assistance service facility focused and committed to climate adaptation in the Caribbean region and in Colombia and Central America. And we do that through education and training, project development, and expert consulting. We are what you can call a network organization with a flat organizational model. And everything we do is undertaken through partnerships. Firstly, we count on a network of experts that has been growing steadily since we started. Now it has about 170 subject matter experts, hydrologists, economists, natural sciences, environmental sciences, finance, whatever you name it, because every project has very specific needs. And we also operate through a network of allies, be it consulting firms, NGOs, foundations. So what this allows us to do is operating across the whole of the Caribbean, Central American region, is to really build very, very tailored teams and capture local talent. So I just want to use an example that speaks to what Alejandro was talking about on empowered participation, and Juliana was talking about democratizing opportunities. Just one example of how we're structuring through these partnerships that enables this kind of changes, and shifts in the current consulting world. So we recently completed a project in the Gulf of Montijo, which is the buffer zone for a beautiful national park called Coiba in the Pacific coast. If you can't go, please go, it's beautiful. And basically it was to be a consulting project on a technical assistance to understand the vulnerabilities to sea level rise of that Gulf, which is the buffer zone of this national park. In a normal world, this would be a project that would be won by one of the leading consulting firms, with head offices somewhere in Europe, and maybe they would have one local consultant, because they need to tick a box, otherwise they wouldn't, get the project. We managed to win that project, structuring the project, yes, with the support of a leading organization that was in Spain, IH Cantabria, but then we operated as the local cultural broker of knowledge, so to say, and we hired local professionals from the Gulf of Montijo, in fact, one of them being the president of a local NGO. So as the project moved along, we were building the capacity of this local NGO through their president on really what does it mean, because the project was a vulnerability assessment then directed to using the information retrieved from the assessments to build a mangrove restoration plan at the local level. So we built the capacity of the local NGO ISEPED, understanding really what mangrove restoration is about. And also through the process, we helped this NGO accessing funds from the Canal Funds for Local Initiatives. This week the project ended, so officially, we have to now wait to see when financing is going to come to implement the mangrove restoration plan that we built. But in reality, we now have a local NGO that has received and captured funds and has received technical assistance from us and is able to start ongoing activities with a community that was engaged from the onset throughout all of the process. I call this a democratization of opportunities because we used what was going to be just financing a consulting project to activate conversations at the local level, give opportunities to the local NGO. Now, with this network of experts, what I think is one of the biggest opportunities for the financial sector is that having developed climate services for financial institutions, I always came across the lack of technical capacity in the banks, especially in terms of not understanding really, how to structure a nature-based solution project, what their return on investment is, what the risk of the profile of risk is, because they don't have the technical knowledge. So it's hard that they're going to be able to develop entire units on biodiversity, like maybe the IDP is doing and things like that. They are going to need specialized and smaller teams. So we're looking to also be a supplier of this kind of technical assistance through this network of subject matter experts.
Thank you very much, Laura. It's quite good and inspiring to see how you're democratizing the opportunity, but also by having local experts, I think they will have a different view at local communities, not like a kind of like a study subject, but an active part of their lives. With that, I would like to ask to Gideon Blau, which partnerships are you triggering and activating to achieve the goals of Cleantech Hub?
first of all, thanks for the invite, and great to be here, back in Cali. I've lived there also for quite a while, so it's awesome to be back. So the partnerships that we have, most of them are, there's national partnerships, but also some international, like UNDP, US State Department that helps us out. So we as a foundation, we support green entrepreneurs, climate entrepreneurs, and we do that in different countries in the region. And the idea is, and this also connects with what Thelma and Juliana was saying in the other panel, about, okay, there's a huge interest, let's say, from, for example, high net worth individuals or families that want to support this type of work, but they don't have the capacity to get there, right? I mean, there's this huge gap between project, a family that lives abroad and does not have, for example, the capacity locally to connect with these types of organizations. So on the one hand, Monica, it's the support for our work that we do because we're structured as an NGO, but on the other hand, we're supporting, let's say, for-profit, of course, startups that are trying to push us in the sustainability transition. So this connects with these topics where you, and that's another thing that was mentioned. And I think it's very important that scale, in order for these projects to get to a certain scale, otherwise it's not going to be investable ever. Otherwise we keep thinking in little projects. We have to put them together, or there's technology that can connect them, and then there's an opportunity, especially let's say for investors to invest in those types of technologies. When we talk about technologies, what kind of technology are we talking about? It's satellite imaging, it's sensoring, but it could also be solar. And one of the big challenges, and that's for us again very important to work with these types of partners, as we sit here on the panel, is that our startups are engineers, right? So they're not anthropologists, right? So how do you bring those technologies to the community so the community can benefit from these technologies? So that's where it's a multi-layer partnership in that sense, right? For the work that we do, how do we support them? And then finally, I think that's another important one, is that especially at the early stage, where the tickets are very small, in the light of our panel before, and then we're talking about 100,000, 300,000, 500,000. Those are relatively small tickets, right? So how can you support that? And then we see that especially the multilaterals have a difficulty to support those types of tickets. So that's where we come in as a local organization to accompany those types of projects, startups.
Thank you so much. I had also some follow-up questions, but there's some few minutes. I would like to ask for the panelists that are here still for the first round. It would be great if you come around, because I will make a question to all of you at once. We will stand. Sorry. And maybe we have a little bit more time, but I would like that you take with you the ones who have to leave right away, like a round of closing, right? So you were all doing and pushing the status quo, either from result-based financing instruments, or partnerships, which I feel like the essential way to build that capacity and those connections. What do you, maybe I wanted to give it in 2 sentences, really little.
Needs to play a really active role, whether you're a corporate, an investor, an NGO, whatever it is, we all have an important role to play. And I think in that spirit, the partnership that we need, I think at least from my purview, which is a little different than others, is corporates. They manage everyone's 401k plans, they manage big pools of assets. Start moving into a more sustainable direction in your holding. Yes.
Yeah, well, I think one of the big words I've heard, let's say these days, was about how we articulate, so how we connect, and how we can be more integrated in our approaches. Because a lot of things we think very one-dimensional, because we think from our own organizations. So that's a great opportunity. I mean, just look at this panel, how diverse. That's incredible. So, but how can we be find more integrated solutions. I think that's a key one. So first understand actually amongst ourselves what our role is in that ecosystem, and from there work in establishing those connections.
Thank you so much. So the first thing I'm really glad is that I see the emergence of local communities and local empowerments in the language of financial institutions. That to me is relatively new and I think critical for long-lasting impact. And I guess one thing that I would look for would be really committed financial institutions that are looking to co-create, co-formulate with local professionals with the hand of local communities those logic interventions, those theories of change for the projects. It really needs to be a bottom-up approach. And as you were sort of hinting to that, we need to see communities not as subjects of studies, but agents of change. And they can not only be the ones helping to co-formulate the solutions, but also monitor the progress and the impact that these solutions are having at the local level.
Thanks. So for me, the big takeaway, and I was taking notes when I was sitting there to speak to my team, is how can we aggregate all this? We got to questions, right? So for me, it's like, what can we do as a bank? Can we use the financial instruments that we have right now in the toolbox? I don't think that it's the unique solution. So that's one. We can try to see how we treat them, but also how to create new ones. And for that, I don't have an answer. So it's about the co-creation also as well. So looking forward if you want to reach out to me.
I'm gonna give that mic on the because I think he needs something.
That is nice. Thank you very much. So indeed, the outcome of this discussion is great because we are all the pieces that we need to crack to really build the real solutions. And what I can say that we are missing is the consumer. Because up to the moment we are talking about all these needs for transformation, but consumers are acting as nothing needs to change.
My main takeaway of this COP16 is to see that nature is phasing away from being seen as a compensation, but looking like nature as a financial value. One thing that happened at this COP that it's a fact that proves this is that we have 30% more corporates compared to the last biodiversity COP. So that shows that companies, investors, they're seeing biodiversity as value creation, and this there is a mind shift happening. Of course, we're still in a small bubble, but this bubble is growing, and I feel like now it's getting to a point where we can finally see biodiversity and nature as an investment opportunity.
And for me, I think it's like many sectors coming together. It's my first time in a biodiversity COP, so it's for me the takeaway is like I think for many years we've been talking about breaking down silos. I think it's happening. We just need to keep pushing on those, and I would love to work with a family office. Those are very interesting beasts, and I would love to work with one of them and have them in my partnership, as part of a partner. Yeah.
Thank you. So, thank you so much. It's really like a dream to have you all here. We have met in different worlds, and it's great. I think COP16 on biodiversity, it's special because it's bringing the water sector, the climate, and it's the beginning of that process of regeneration, right? Paul Hawkins said that we're here. Climate change happened, and it's the result in a way of we constantly separating in our minds and creating systems that separate things that are in reality together. So in a way, I see this like a nice something to weave back that. Now, with that said, for me, what is clear, and I hope you also take note of, is that there are opportunities. There are opportunities that are looking for local investment proposals in Latin America, in the rest of the world. Latin America has a big role and a great endowment of biodiversity. But then we have to democratize that opportunity. There are people doing that, but it's actually the job of all of us, right? And that starts by building bridges. It doesn't matter if you have, for example, your initiative there. How do you work with other initiatives in your vicinity and try to get those pulled to get access to the finance that Selma was talking about? And also the role, we didn't talk a lot, but it's the role of local capacity. I mean, Laura talked about it, but we need to do the way we buy. If you're a government, the way you buy, you can start to activate the tissue of private sector, of communities and so forth, to be the providers of those investment opportunities. With that, yeah, I hope you got some new insights, and you just reach out to them for questions in the website that we sent you. You will get more information. We will also have some small videos they prepared about their take on the problem. And yeah, we hope this to be the start of a conversation. Carlos, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I start talking in English, I will finish talking in Spanish. Now, por mi parte, sí, tendremos la sesión grabada. Muchísimas gracias por acompañarnos, muchísimas gracias a los panelistas. Creo que ha habido un concepto claro, es crear puentes, partnerships, alianzas, ser creativos, buscar de qué formas podemos complementar lo que hacemos unos y lo que hacemos otros, y al final, con el único objetivo de hacer un mundo más justo y más sostenible. Entonces esperamos que lo hayáis encontrado interesante, esa charla, y os invitamos en la página, no lo hemos puesto, ¿verdad? Pero en la página de la Fundación wearewater.org encontraréis más información sobre esta charla y diferentes contenidos que vamos a seguir. Y los vemos. Muchísimas gracias. Sí, una
Sí.